So, welcome. So nice to have you here today. And for those of you that can't be with us, welcome to the Q&A of why you would want to do a course in biodynamic craniosacral therapy. The course title that we have for the full foundation training is The Art, Science, and Spirituality of Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy. And I created that title because I really do feel that the course that we're offering does provide for each of those elements. So in today's presentation, we're just going to take you through an overview of how we have refined our 19-month full foundation training. We've, of course, as everyone else, had to adapt our curriculum to the online needs during the pandemic. So in some ways, the last class where we were able to shift and adapt gave us some really great insights, not only to some of the possibilities of teaching this information online, but also how wonderful it can be to take some of the more meaty modules and break them up so that you can get little small digestible bits. So we're going to talk a little bit about how the program has changed and what we'll be doing for our 2021 and 2022 class to accommodate this new teaching style. And we're also going to just go through what does each module look like, what are the class requirements, and how you can have a better sense of if this is the right training for you. So our first module, and actually our first through third modules, are all modules that you can take a la carte. They're intended to be individual classes that you can take to see if this is the right training for you. When people take classes 1, 2, and 3, it really gives you a rich sense of the pacing and the content and the demands in some way of this course, and also how much you get from that investment, how much you receive. So in module 1, we're going to be covering safety, sensing, and sentience. So we're really going to delve into what makes a safe container. What does safety mean to you, and what does safety mean to me? We are also going to look at sensing. Many people already come to this course with a wonderful capacity to sense others. Oftentimes, it can be even sensing them more than they would necessarily always want. But we begin with our sensing to sense self, and to really start going inward and understanding how to sense when we're present, grounded, how to play with expanding our sense of awareness. And then eventually we get into the capacity to sense other at a negotiated distance, at a distance that is acceptable for both people. And part of this study when we begin is really to understand and appreciate and recognize the sentience in all beings. So by understanding basics of how we are all breathed by something called the breath of life, we get a chance to begin with a shared dialogue, a shared set of principles that we're going to investigate together over the 19 months. So in our second module, we're going to be covering what we call presence, pacing, and patterns. Presence is a quality. It's a way of being with someone. And we look at how to cultivate and hone our sense of presence with another being. Of course, that involves how to negotiate ourselves with that other being. And that very much dovetails into pacing. How can the pace that we set in our speaking, in our nonverbal language, how can that help create safety and create a more digestible experience for our partner? And with patterns, what we look at is actually some work from an osteopath that did a study called polarity therapy. And this is looking at the energetic map in the body. looking at the patterns that we know are lines of force, and helping to understand our own and widen our own understanding of the human energy system by learning these patterns. So that's the first few. The third is fulcrums, fields, and fluids. And in this course, we're going to be looking at how do things move in the body. What is a fulcrum? A fulcrum is basically a place around which movement happens. So we'll go through the variety of different fulcrums that we'll find in the human body and in the human system. We'll spend some time with the fields of the body. So how the body contains itself, how the boundaries of each of those fields is met by a horizontal fascia. So these transverse fibers create the diaphragms of the body. And lastly, we're going to cover fluids. So this is very much a fluidic work. And it requires not only that we orient to and understand the fluids of the body, such as the cerebrospinal fluid and its container, but it also beckons for us to shift into a more fluidic embodiment so that we can be soft and meet the body in that fluid way. So those are the first three. And as I mentioned before, these first three can be taken as standalone classes. Once we get through module 3, we will have finalized accepting students for the course. And beginning at the end of module 3, we are going to shift from in-class 4-day classes to a hybrid where we're going to be doing information online, preparing for the next module, and then we'll do 3 days in class together to work out the body work, the practical parts of those courses and of that coursework. So our 4th class is on stillness, strains, and states of balance. Stillness is really one of the core principles of this work. And it is a place from which the power, the energy, and the drive to our system originates. So we'll spend some time with stillness, how to cultivate stillness, why as a practitioner we might want to utilize stillness, and look at how that helps the body. We'll also spend some time looking at the natural way that the body organizes itself and learning the difference between the natural respiration of a body and the strains. Strains in the body are how the tissue, fluid, or energetic field are holding imbalances, how they're holding things that have not been digested in the system. So when we work with strains, what we're doing therapeutically is we're looking for where is a balance. How can we invite the body into a state of balance where it can recognize, process, digest, and reorganize around that strain being held. So it's a very full course, and there's a lot of wonderful information. Next, we will go to spending a little bit of time with the bones. You know, we try to layer in the anatomy so that we're in each course uncovering little bits of the anatomy, the principles, and the techniques. So in this module, we'll be working with what we call the cranial vault bones. Those are the bones on the top of the head. The cranial base bones, which make up the bottom of the cranial field. And we'll also look at how above is related to below by spending time with the pelvic bones. So this is going to give us a great structure, a great foundation to build upon in our next module. So the next module really looks at, from this bony place, how is the body formed? What's the architecture that has been laid down in a given person? We're all shaped by experiences and events, especially pre and perinatal experiences and events. So we will look at how the body holds itself, and we'll look at different ways for us to assess that and how to work with it. Ancillary patterns is about how the body can have compensatory patterning. So sometimes there's an origin, an original site of a particular shaping, but then all the pieces that are connected through that spider web of fascial tissue might also have to accommodate. So we'll look at the architecture of the system, we'll learn how to assess the system, and we'll look at the different ancillary patterns that can occur with these holding patterns. Then we'll move on to learning about midlines. There are 3 midlines, and by orienting to each of these midlines, which are basically energetic access points, we'll learn how to harness the power of them therapeutically. We'll learn how to orient to each one of them and why each one might have a different therapeutic relevance in different situations. We'll look at the overall motions and patterning of the body and how health looks and breathes. And we'll spend time specifically with membranes, really looking at the dural membranes in the head and the membranes throughout the body. So again, all of these are layering in parts of the whole that we need to understand as a craniosacral therapist. Then we'll be spending some time with the spine, stability and spaces. And as you might have noticed, we're having some amount of repetition. You know, we have spent some time with these areas before, but every time we revisit a territory, we're doing so through a different lens. So we're going to spend time with the very specific anatomy of the spine and how different sections of the spine are created, how their embryological origins affect their range of motion and their functioning in the whole body. We'll look at stability and how the pelvis and the lumbosacral area helps to provide stability, as well as how it holds the watery field of that unconscious basin where we have the root and water chakra and how that relates to our relational fields. We're also going to look at spaces. And in this way, when I speak of spaces, I mean what happens when the dura pulls apart from itself. What is created there are called venous sinuses. So we'll look at a protocol in craniosacral therapy that works with the spaces in between the dura in the brain and how that helps to clear out cerebrospinal fluid and blood. It's a very practical and functional protocol, and it's one of the few protocols that we have in biodynamics. Unlike some of the other dynamics, is really based in the idea that we yield to we listen to and take our cues from something called the inherent treatment plan. So even though it might be heavy throughout the course, we are layering in principles of biodynamics, and we're laying in that trust and cultivating that trust and that belief that the body knows how to lead us. As we are edging toward the finish line of the course, we're going to be spending some time with verbal skills. And as you can imagine, verbal skills are important throughout the course. And we will be modeling verbal skills, and we'll be speaking to some of them. But in this module, we really get a chance to take a look at the social nervous system. We get a chance to look a little bit at trauma-based healing and how to use verbal skills specifically when a system is hypo or hyper, and how to help support our clients through very particular verbal skills. We're also going to look at something called force vectors, which is a way that energy can get trapped in the body. It's similar to when we were working with the fulcrums, but it's a bit broader. So again, we're going to read with and look at it through a different lens, getting more specific, more clear skills, and how to apply them. And the bulk of this class is based on the viscerocranium. So viscerocranium is separate from the neurocranium, which is where we've been. It's really the study of and working with the facial bones. So viscero, we take in things for our organs here. So the viscerocranium is a specialized look into how to work with the face and the facial bones. And then as we come toward the end of our class, we'll look at ontogeny. Ontogeny is really the study of how an organism is developed, its origin, and how we can have a broader lens. As we come toward the end of the class, we start really getting a panoramic view of the whole of our client and being able to understand the preconception, conception, pre and perinatal dynamics of our clients and of ourselves is a really critical part of becoming a therapist. In this module, we'll also spend time with all of the visceral organs. So we'll spend time with the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, spleen, large and small colon. We'll spend time with the reproductive organs, eliminative organs. So really taking some time in this area to make sure that we can relate to and really hear the energetic signature of each of the organs. And finally, we will end with the study of obstetrics, which is the mainstream way in our culture that babies are born. And we'll look at how birth can impact, how birth, bonding, and attachment can impact our clients and ourselves. Finally, we will end with ignition. There are 3 main ignition points that help spark our energy and help make us really vital and present. We'll look at integration, how to integrate this training program, how to integrate sessions, how to integrate all that we've learned. And individuation really celebrates the fact that this training has a major goal, that each individual student finds their own way and their own relationship with this work. We are not interested in turning out cookie cutter versions of our teaching staff. We want you to find your way of relating and find your own special gifts in relationship to this work. And this module ends with our graduation celebration, which is always memorable and really beautiful. So we have gathered a few reflections from students that have graduated, and I just wanted to share some of the thoughts that they've had so that you can understand a little bit about what taking this training might mean. So this is from Christina, who says, the foundation training at Heartwaves Healing Institute for Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy invites a breadth of topics while always holding a loving and compassionate space, ample for integration of what is being presented. One of my favorite aspects of this class has been the stress-free, pressure-off style of learning. It has healed me from the many times throughout my life where I was met with an opposing style. This has allowed the knowledge to flow naturally, paced to perfection. Mimi and the teaching staff allow for the impossible to be possible. It's more than just a learning of anatomy, physiology, spirituality, science. It's a self journey that is held in the most magnificent container. Individualized and yet created for the whole. I am beyond grateful. My whole life has transformed. Thank you. And this sort of sentiment of the life-changing capacity of this training is echoed over and over again by graduates. I'll read another reflection from Cam, who was in a recent class. She says, Mimi and the teaching staff go above and beyond to bring a unique and valuable learning experience to students. Mimi has incredible knowledge of this work and does whatever it takes to make sure each student gets the attention they need. I truly felt that my money was well spent and that each day was so rich with information and table exchanges. Lesson plans were laid out with amazing detail and organization, and Mimi made sure the day flowed well and covered what needed to be covered. Love Mimi's sweet, playful, and peaceful demeanor and her ability to have fun and encourage us to do the same along the way. I feel like it was a true gift to share this experience and learn from someone who is so passionate and excited about this work. And that is true. I really do love this work, and I feel honored to be able to bring it to the individuals who are ready. Our final testimonial is a reflection from our first graduating class, a gentleman named Francis, who loved this crystal so much, he would sort of lean his head into it. These are pictures from our journey space, the place where we teach. And Francis's reflection says, this training was wonderful in so many ways. Mimi and the teaching staff structured the course in a way that really reflected the principles of the material being taught. I loved the pace and adaptability of the training. I was able to absorb the material in a way that worked for me. This training changed me in ways that I continue to discover and deepen into. I feel such deep gratitude for having gone through this course, for the material, the teachers, the students, the classroom space, and the experience of this profound work. And I do think that one of the things that sets us apart is that we have an amazing teaching staff. My goal is to have a one-on-one mentor relationship so that every student has a graduate to work with in their exchanges. This really allows for, right from the very beginning, students to see examples of how to negotiate space, how to help clients be comfortable, how to foster conversations and find the language, which sometimes is hard with this kind of work. So as you can see, I have a page laid out for the calendar of 2021. And this is something that we want to be clear is a new lesson. We really learned from this last graduating class where we had to teach modules 8 through 11 online, just how rich that is, that we were actually able to slow down and take things week by week. So as you can see, modules 1 through 3 are between March and June. They are intended to be in-person 4-day classes. The classes run from 9:30 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon with a 1-hour lunch break. And they're intended to be shorter so that people are still refreshed at the end of the day. We'll have in-between classes, probably online. Some of that is going to be up to the needs of the students, and those would be on Wednesdays. If we and the environment can support in-person review days, I would like to do that. but this is what we have so far. As we all know these days, everything has to be determined. So we try to be really flexible with that. And then you can see modules 4 through 11. And as I mentioned, once we get through our third module, we will no longer be taking new students in. We have the capacity to take between 6 and 8 students. So we would love to have that clear by our third module. Modules 4 through 11 will be set in a way where we'll do about every other week. We'll sort of spoon feed just another little bit of information so you have time to get the information in. We'll be teaching you in modules 1, 2 through 3 how to do distance sessions. So not only will you be able to do the work at the tables, but you'll also be able to do it over the phone or over video, so that when we do this distance work of the online training, you'll be able still to practice. And one of the probably most exciting things that we found out from our experiment in 2020 is that the students were able to realize how wonderful distance work could be. And then the second year is 2022. We will be doing, again, the same sort of pacing of every other week or so. We'll be preparing for a module. I like to give folks things to read before the module and after the module. I like to give videos of anatomy, so I try to provide plenty of materials. We end up reading both volumes 1 and 2 of Franklin Sill's volumes on biodynamic craniosacral therapy. And those, including all the other paperwork and supplies for the class, are provided and included in the cost of the course. And as you can see, there are a few things that are due toward the end. We'll be having you do a case study where you track a particular student, a particular client over the course of 20 sessions and then write up what that experience was. It's one of the highlights of the course. It really allows people to track and to see the effects that this work have, which I think is very important to really understand the long-term and deep and the breadth of the effects that this work can have. We also have a written exam that is due. It is an open book test that is based on the community quizzes that we do, and it is it's comprehensive. Let's just say that it's a comprehensive review. And then we do also have some practical exams where you get a chance to do work on us, and we have a cranial nerve project. And I'm sure that sounds like a ton right now, but I will try to comfort you in saying that you get a lot of support and there's plenty of time. They're very long-term projects, and that you have a tutor working with you one-on-one to support you throughout. So maybe when in the next couple minutes, when we take some information, some questions, and get a little input from people that have taken the course, they can maybe put that into perspective, what they got out of it, how the pace was. This is a foundation training. This really is a professional training. So it is intended to be broad and deep, but it's also one of those things where you get out what you put in. So I think that you will find that the benefits of this investment are tenfold. So to conclude this slide presentation, you can see here the walkway coming up to our school. This is the journey space where we teach. It's a beautiful retreat area right down by the Potomac River. It's very beautiful. There's little salamanders running everywhere, and fairies out in the bushes and angels in the walkways. So it's a lot of fun. It's a very healing place. And a lot of people comment that going to class is a retreat, that being there is healing in and of itself. So in conclusion, I trust that some part of you already knows if this is the right time and the right place to continue your journey towards self-growth. And if so, if you make that choice. Just know that there's a community of others like you ready to embark on this adventure with you so that we can all do this together. And we look very much forward, all of the teachers at Heartwaves Healing Institute look forward to welcoming you home to the Heartwaves family, if and when you decide that it's your turn. So I will just stop screen sharing and I will welcome any questions. I know that was a lot of information. So just see if anything percolates. I'll just need you to unmute.
Nothing off the top of my head, but it was nice to hear everything, even though I had read it, and just to see some graduates and all that. Oh, I can't hear you now. There you go.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, maybe it would be good to just have folks speak a little bit about, as I was reading off the things, the curriculum, I was like, wow, this might sound like a lot.
So, it sounds awesome. I mean, I'm study all of this independently anyway, so.
There you go. There you go. So maybe, I don't know, Kathy, do you want to say a little bit about the course and what you noticed?
I would love to. So it is a lot, but it's just life-changing. I don't think anyone that I know has taken Biodynamic Craniosacral and doesn't say, it changed my life. It definitely changed my life. I went to another school for my foundations training, so I can just say the difference between Mimi's class and the one I took. I did not get any handouts from my class. Like I got like maybe like 5 sheets of paper the whole time. Mimi provides tons of beautiful, beautiful information with beautiful pictures. Like when you mentioned being a little concerned about anatomy, the pictures of the anatomy that are provided are beautiful. You can really see what needs to be seen. Mimi also has a wonderful way of bringing in all the different kinds of teaching techniques where, like, if you're a visual person, there's models. If you're an audio person, there's lots of lecture talk for words. Hands-on, there's the way the class is structured, plenty of time for actual experiential hands-on. And in Mimi's class, you work with teachers all the time. So that gives you someone who's experienced, who can help you feel what we're working on, and can like reflect back to you what they're feeling is going on. In the class that I took, we never worked with teachers unless we were short a student or we were being tested or something. So we worked with other students. And so, you know, a lot of times we were like, do you know what we're doing? I don't know. What do we do? So to work with a teacher, someone who's more experienced, is super helpful.
Sure.
Let's see. And I also wanted to say that really, truly, Mimi takes every student's, you know, how every student is doing into consideration. And like, if she sees that you need a little more of this, she provides it. If you're having some issues yourself and you need to like say, hey, I'm really not getting this, can you help me? She is so there for everyone, and she really, really cares that everyone is getting it and everyone's having a good experience. And it's a wonderful, wonderful class. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, I checked and I reached underneath and I found my friend. Yeah. This is the amount of papers that I So I give you the notebook, and I give you the textbook, and I give you all the handouts you can imagine, as well as some people don't necessarily have the extra funds to buy anatomy books. So I make beautiful color printouts of the anatomy that you'll need. And I really like relying on, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I really like sending out beautiful, really well done anatomy videos, and I try to give pretty precise reading assignments so that you feel like you kind of already know the information when we go in to study it. And then, because what is important to me is that you get to experience it, right? Everybody can read a book, everybody can watch a video, but what's important when we're together is that you get a chance to embody it, because it's
Right.
really the embodiment that it becomes, it's what is more real, right? It's what's more tangible. So yes.
And Mimi, I'd just like to say that I think that the students are so prepared to be therapists after the class. Like they can go right into having their own practice because we do clinics. And so you have so much experience. You're ready to go.
That's great.
Jamie, do you want to say a little bit? So Jamie took a course and then she just
Yeah, I guess I have one question for clarification, which is you said that the first three are a la carte. To me, a la carte means you can join for any of them or only one of them, or I just want to clarify. Do you mean someone can just take 3 and see what it's like, or?
Basically, if folks, when I entered my craniosacral training, I wasn't able to be in module number 1, and I kind of thought the ship had sailed for me on that. And I think it's important, it's important that I really believe the people that are meant to be in this cohort, the 2021, 2022 class, they're already finding their way there. They're already getting the calls or noticing the flyers or whatever it is. And so to have people come in module 1 and decide it's not for them is perfect. To have people come for 1 and 2 and be like, oh my God, I'm in love with this. I want to be, with Heartwaves Healing Institute for the next 10 years. It's perfect. So yeah, module 1, 2, and 3. You can just pay for each one, and there's no obligation. The reason why I ask that after module 3, that we don't take, the reason why I set a limit and I don't allow new students to come in after module 3 is because, to me, part of the safety, part of the field that we're creating so that everybody feels safe and invested and taken care of is that there's a coherency, a consistency. There's a clear boundary that this is our group. So that's why after module 3, I don't allow more students. And we only have 6 to 8 slots, so there's not a lot of, there's not a lot of room, but it does allow us to have the one-on-one, and it allows us to also spread out and be physically distant.
Okay, sweet. So I first was introduced to craniosacral through Mimi. I had my first craniosacral session with you about 7 years ago, and it changed my life. And that session led to a lot of shifts in my life. Within a week, my life was very different. But I didn't think about training. I didn't think about anything other than at that time, my family and like recreating my life. About 2.5 years ago, I was at a meditation retreat, and I started feeling a lot of energy, and I started having this desire to give back. And I asked the universe to help steer me in the right direction. Like, what do I do? Where do I go? And immediately your training came up. And so that day, I think I called you and was like, do you still have slots? Because again, it was a couple modules in. So I didn't really know what I was signing up for. I think a lot of people don't. You just sign up with this sort of intention to want to learn more and to get to know yourself and to understand the subtle things. And along the way, I learned that this training that you've created is not just about, it's not just about creating a teacher at the end of it. It's about creating someone who goes through a process, who understands the deeper things in life and then can offer them to other people. So it's, you know, I've heard it from everybody, you know, Kathy's saying it, we're all saying it, that it changes your life. And it's also set up to really, for you to graduate as a teacher. You know, we have 150 hours of practice that we do with people out in the world. And it created an environment where after 150 hours of practice, you really know what you have a firmer grasp. I took a yoga training myself. And at the end of it, you kind of often, you like kind of know what you're supposed to do, but you're really out there when you go in to teach your first class. I feel like with this, it's a very different environment. The clinic she was speaking of is where we just take anybody who wants to come. And we have a teacher with us, and that's towards the end of the training, but it really gets you acclimated to a new person. How do you do an intake? How do you figure this out? And the level of commitment that you have for this class is, I think it's really unique, and it's really hard to find elsewhere. You have all of these tools and all of these videos and all of these in books and papers, right? Every module we come in, we get a bunch of new papers and we make notes and we do all this stuff. And it can feel like a lot, and yet there's so much space in it for us to have our own experience and for us to fall off the track and then get back on. And there's no real pressure to figure it out. I think a lot of the concepts you teach are those concepts that we end up learning, and how we're going to have this learning. I've really enjoyed being part of it, right? I got to learn, and then I got to be part of it on the other side of it. You don't realize how much you're learning until you come to a new class. So yeah, I could go on. I could go on for a long time. I think I'm gonna cut it short at this, and know that it's a constant learning. You know, when you go in, and I hear that I didn't know anatomy. I'm not a therapist either, or as a massage therapist. We all learn what we can learn the first time around, and we try to understand as much information as we can. I love that we're allowed, that the group that graduates has this in to help with the next class, because the next class teaches you so much, right? And you get to be part of that process again. And because you're so intentional about the people you pick, those people often become people who become really great teachers as well. So I love the whole format. I love how careful and thoughtful you are. And yeah, I'm really happy to be part of Heartwaves.
Thanks, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say, Karen, just so you know, most trainings are designed to have 20 to 25 students with about a 1-to-5 ratio of, you know, 1 to 5 students. And the way that the model that Heartwaves works off of is that, you know, kind of like you're in it for life. You're not really in it. There's no obligations. But I do make this offer for everybody that graduates, that if they want to become part of the teaching team the next year, I welcome them to, because it's not sustainable. You know, we can't keep having one-on-one ratios unless the people that take the class you know, unless there are more graduates, right, that are interested in doing it again. And I will say, I might be in my 8th round of this course. There's always something new. There's always some next level of intricacy, and it's beautiful because you really can do the work and practice the work for your whole life, and there is no end limit to the experience, the phenomenon that you go through. And I love that, you know, I am ridiculously passionate about this work and committed to it, and committed not only to the work but to providing the environment, most individually tailored iteration of this work, because I think that part and parcel of the true principle of the work is that people feel completely seen and met. A really important part. So I don't know if that brings up any questions. I would say, Christelle, do you want to speak anything to the exam or the case study, or to sort of, you know, because it does sound like a lot, I guess, just, do you have anything to say about what it feels like on the other side, or the benefits that you get out of it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can definitely speak to that. And yes, I think I'm on mute. So what, let's see what I can say. What I think it really brings is just another layer of going deeper and understanding the material. In the other class, the training that I took before I joined Heartwaves, the one that Sarah and I did, there were some homeworks to do a little bit, and there were a few things, but it was very loose, and it definitely, we were not supported in doing those homework or having a case study or doing the cranial nerve project. And so I can only speak for myself, and maybe because I was not that good of a student, but I kind of like, okay, took the easy way out. So I did a little bit, but not as much as I could have. And what I've noticed as a teaching assistant first, and then again this year as a teacher in training, like how much it has given to each student by doing really the projects and the homeworks and the clinics and all that's being offered, just a way to deepen in their understanding, in their learning, and doing it with support from the teaching staff, as opposed to, damn, I have this thing to do, but I really don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just going to do the bare minimum and just to get away with it. Which, again, I'm not saying everybody did that, but I know I did. And so, and as I was this year, as I was helping Mimi correcting Sarah and I, we're looking at the various homeworks and final exam and all of that. It's just like, wow. I mean, we did one this morning, Sarah and I, and we were like, so impressed by every student and by what they've learned, but by what they have retained. And so it does seem like a lot, but it's so worth it, because you're worth it. That's what the commercial says, right?
I love it, because you're worth it. That's perfect. Thank you, Chris. I'll say, when you do a national or even international study of the cost of these programs, they're all in the $8,000 to probably $12,000 range. They're not inexpensive. I absolutely am happy to work with people on a payment program. We basically figured out it's about $375 a month. So break that down by 4. It's not a lot per week. And I'm happy to extend that pay, you know, if people want to, you know, make it 300. And the requirements for the graduation certificate are that you complete all the classwork and that you complete all the payments. So,
Of course.
yeah, but it is, I have a personal goal to graduate the most competent, well-versed, you know, I really want you to get your money's worth, get the full experience. That's why when we had to accommodate the pandemic and we had all of these months, you know, because we usually have 2 months between a class, I said, well, let's just do a chunk every week. And then the whole teaching staff said, we can never go back to doing all of that in 4 days. like we can never go back to that, because it's now that we've seen how much better it is to let it trickle in and absorb it and get to work with it little by little. You know, it changed the curriculum forever. So I'm very grateful for that.
So there's the foundation class for 150, and that's a different class.
So the principals,
And then, principals, okay.
principals class is 245, and it's
Oh,
2 hours once a month. It's basically 8 times 2. It's a 16-hour course, as opposed to, I think this is about 750 hours.
oh, am I thinking of something else?
I'd be thinking of the 2-day introduction. So
Yes,
the
yes.
introduction, because we have to do it online, it's really 6 hours. So it's
The 2-day intro is 150, and that's probably recommended and required. And then level 1, 2, and 3, 350, 375, 375, 375.
correct.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, 375 per month. So each module,
Each module.
every module is 750,
Okay.
which surprisingly is
Got you. Okay.
low end
Okay.
of most trainings, but it is.
All right. And then with the teaching, can you talk a little more about how that works? Is that at first an unpaid position, then moves into paid? And can you just talk a little more about that?
Absolutely. So when graduates come out, if they want to go directly into a training, they're called table assistants.
Okay.
And table assistants are not responsible for anything other than doing exchanges with the students and giving them feedback, modeling, you know, just being your own personal cheerleader at your table, you know, helping you learn, helping you refine. And that is an unpaid position. When people have gone through that once, then I try to do stipends for what we would call teaching assistants or senior teaching assistants. And when folks get to the point that they do a teacher in training, because another one of my goals is to get the word out, which is why I created the principals class. I'm also trying to create as many really highly competent teachers as possible. And I would love for the curriculum to be taken. We had a teacher that was looking at perhaps moving abroad. And I said to her, I would love for you to take the curriculum and teach it somewhere, because I really believe in this curriculum. I believe in the power of it, and I believe in the safety of it and the efficacy of it. So when teachers are in a teacher in training role, then they also get another. So they're sort of, and that's comparable with the international standards, that different levels of seniority, people would have different amounts. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't want to keep you, we've already been on over an hour. But what if I were to miss a class or something like that?
Great
An
question.
online class or in person?
Great question. So of course people have to miss classes because life happens. And I actually build the curriculum and pad the hours so that people can do that. We record things that are online. So if you miss for watching it, and if you miss an online class and you have usually between classes you're paired with someone to do that over the phone work, so you would still be responsible for doing that exchange. Those, you know, depending on what you negotiate, all of the practices have to be 45 minutes minimum. Sometimes I'll spend up to an hour and a half with someone, but that's negotiated between the teacher and you, sort of what time you'd be responsible for that. At a certain level, we can't drop below the minimum requirements of hours. So, you know, you couldn't miss like 3 modules, but, you know, an afternoon here or a morning there, or, you know, of course that happens. And of course that will be accommodated. If it's an in-person class, I usually just do one-on-one mentorships outside. Again, if you get beyond a certain number, I believe it's 4 of those, then there's an additional, or Kathy or whoever you're working with, I would pay them for their time. So there would be a small fee for that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but that's a great question, Karen. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, everyone, so much. So much good info.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And yeah, be in touch. Let us know. We do have the intro classes in January. We figured give everybody till the new year, because who can think about anything before then? And they should be really putting together a great curriculum for them that will be really engaging and individual, and yeah, there'll be a lot of fun breakout rooms and experiential things. So
Fun.
looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Karen. Take good care.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.